Okay, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Sitting Down with Scholars. I'm joined by Lily, and Lily, can you take us through what really prompted you to get involved in marine sciences and that area of academia so far?
Yeah, so I'm Lily. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is kind of a small town in the United States. Growing up, I always loved the ocean. I would only get to go to the beach for like a week every year, but it was always my favorite part of the year, and I knew that I wanted to do something that involved the ocean, but I was nervous that it wasn't a realistic career path. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but I really didn't know anyone that was doing marine science aside from people who worked in aquariums, so that was always kind of a little struggle for me. I knew it's what I wanted to do, but when I would talk about it, it was like, is it realistic? I think marine science is a very heavily stereotyped and romanticized field. I think people tend to think of dolphins and beaches and not making enough money to support yourself. So there were definitely some concerns with that. But one of the things that I did my senior year of high school, I was hopeful that I would end up going to college for marine science, but I wasn't sure. So I reached out to a bunch of people that I found on Instagram and on TikTok who were studying marine science at different universities. And I asked them what their life was like, what their experiences at school were like, how they've been able to find jobs, stuff like that. And the responses were overwhelmingly very positive, and it gave me a lot of hope and confidence that this was something realistic that I could do. So I ended up going to the University of South Carolina and studying marine science. It was the cheapest school, and it's kind of inland, so we're like 2 hours from the closest beach. But luckily, with my lab, I had the opportunity to go to the coast. I worked as a research tech in a national estuarine research reserve last summer, so I got to live on the coast and meet a lot of great people, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, when I got to school, I knew that I wanted to get involved with research just because I think it's something that's everyone kind of associates with marine science. I heard it was good, and luckily through my university, the University of South Carolina, there's a lot of opportunities to get funding for students. So it's always kind of been my job, which has been nice because I've been able to get experience and learn new things while also not having to have an off-campus job like being a waitress or something. So that's been really fun.
Oh, that's interesting to hear. And like you say, I think one of the things, particularly for someone at your stage of academia, so like you said, you're at the undergraduate level. So in terms of that motivation, have you found getting involved with and getting in touch with various different marine scientists at different stages of their academic journey themselves has been really pivotal? You've said it's highlighted some of the job elements, but in terms of the content they put out and how they communicate that, what was it about their type of material that really engaged you in that?
I think for me, for what I was using it for, I just really wanted to see what their lives were like. So, like day in my life videos, it was good to see, since I didn't know any marine scientists, I didn't know what their life looked like. I didn't know if I don't know, it just seemed kind of unrealistic. So it was really cool to see marine scientists or people who were studying marine science posting videos about what days in their lives look like. So I've kind of tried to replicate that too, just to see, and also videos about their research. Um, Again, that's kind of hard because I think when you post a video about research, you get a little glimpse into what they're doing, but it's like also there's that element of like, how are they doing this? How did they get to that point? Um, how are they supporting themselves? So I think there's a lot that goes into it. And now that I'm in college, I love to watch videos like that. I think now that I started this new account, where I post stuff related to marine science, my For You page, it's become a lot more, I think, centric around other people who are doing marine science, which is awesome. I love to see that, and see what other people are doing and just people who like the beach in general. Um, but yeah, I like to see videos of people, I guess specifically students from different schools too, and see what they do every day. I think that's cool because it really is. I think marine science, it's very different depending on where you do it at. There's so many different things that you can study and focus on. I know, I'm sure. Um, at USC, we do a lot of stuff with estuaries. A lot of the professors are doing research related to estuaries and salt marshes just because our affiliate marine lab is on a National Estuarine Research Reserve versus at U Miami. And I know they do a lot of stuff with shark tagging and coral reefs. So I think it's interesting that the student experience and what kind of research you can do is largely governed by um, where the school is and what research the professors there are doing. And I think that's one of the big advantages of TikTok and social media. You can see what you can do before you actually get there and then make more informed decisions about your own life too.
And is that what really helped you make some of those early stage decisions on what college to go to, based on, like you say, seeing graduates or, well, students or undergraduate students who are already there, potentially even they might be the year ahead of you now, a couple of years ahead of you, or so, and just seeing. Okay.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. I know I didn't really know what to look for though because being a senior in high school, I didn't really know what marine science was. So I was seeing these things, but I didn't really know like what they meant or how they were living, so I think my scope was very narrow in that sense, but there was a girl I followed on TikTok. I can't remember what her name was, but she went to USC, and I DM'd her on Instagram, and she kind of shared some stuff about her experience with me, and that was enough for me. Just because it was the cheapest school, I think I was already kind of leaning towards it. So, to hear her say that she had a good experience, um, and I can attest to that. It has been absolutely fabulous. I think Marine Sciences Pacific, there's a really good community in the field, and all of my professors are awesome. I think we're pretty close, and just the other students too. It's cool to kind of have that community that you're in aside from your friends and other people that you meet through.
No, and with you saying, I'm just really interested in, particularly because you're at that really, I would say, the early stage of whichever track you decide to pursue, whether that's research, science communication, or working in marine conservation, or science research generally. But from your perception, thinking back to when you were a senior in high school, when you say the information wasn't necessarily there, what did you think was marine science? Because I know from a lot of students' perspectives, when they think about the big names of the fields that they're going into, there is a lot of uncertainty and a lack of clarity, particularly of resources that are there for school students to be able to find out about.
Yeah. From what I heard from other people or from what other people were telling me, scuba diving and dolphins were the big things that stuck out to me. Um, I had no idea what a career in marine science looked like. I think I did a job shadow with someone, or kind of like a virtual job shadow, who was a marine scientist, and scuba diving was a big part of her career. So, in that case, I guess yes, it is, and I think scuba diving, it can be a big part of careers, but at least from my experience and the people who are doing research at USC, scuba diving really doesn't tie into their everyday work. So I think now it's much easier for me to see sort of the career pipeline. A lot of the people that I interact with on a daily basis have been in academia for a while, so they did like their undergrad, maybe worked for a little bit, went to get their master's, did their PhD, and then ended up being faculty at a university and now are doing their own research. And I think that's a really linear path that I don't know, I had never considered that, or since I didn't know anyone that had done that, I didn't realize that that's how that worked. Um, I don't know that that's the right career path for me. I don't know how long I want to stay in academia for. I love the University of South Carolina, and I think I could stay here for definitely a long time, but I don't know if that's just because I love the people here or I love the research. But yeah, certainly actually being here has helped me better understand what marine science is, and then now when I look at other people's videos, I can better make that like, oh, like this is what they're doing versus I guess in high school I it was cool to see, but I didn't really understand how that would tie into my own career.
No, it's interesting, like you say, and I'm just thinking of a particular student that I used to teach, who's when you're saying about scuba diving and so on, is very similar. I would say she's slightly ahead of you in her career stage, but uh, she basically went into more general conservation, and then was really fell in love with the likes of Operation Wallacea, which is an external conservation charity that looks at various different researchers. No, and she found that really fell in with the dive master certification. They went through all of that type of thing, which I imagine, depending on, I don't know how experienced you are in scuba, but she got her dive cert, and now I believe is instructing as well as doing conservation for them. So, but yeah, so that type of developmental journey, it seems to be very varied in terms of you can both do it from a commercial tourist side of helping. Oh yeah, here we'll show you how to scuba, and then equally do it conservation as well. And like with anything, the commercial side of the tourist industry likely contributes more to the funding what the conservation work that's going on with the various dive societies and so on. But it's interesting how, from a technical skill point of view, have you done with your course, or generally, have you managed to get much scuba diving experience, knowledge, and skills?
So my university does offer scuba classes. I did my scuba certifications in high school as part of my senior project, which was nice. I would have liked to take the classes here, but I have my basic certification, I have an advanced certification, and then nitrox too. Um, and if I wanted to do, I'm not sure how it works over there, but if I wanted to do scientific research scuba diving, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure there's a scientific, I think it's AAUS or something, a scientific diving certification that you have to get in order to do research scuba diving at different institutions. I'm not 100% on that, but um I had kind of going into college, I had hoped to eventually get that. Um, but there's a lot that goes into that certification. I think it's harder to do here just because we are landlocked, but I know some people who have studied abroad, and then while they were abroad, they were able to dive enough and meet the certifications to do that. And I think if you want to go and do research, have a career like that, that's super important. That's a great opportunity. But they stopped doing that study abroad program, so that ended up not working out. But yeah, I would eventually like. I think it would be cool just to have that certification so that I could um potentially do research. That sounds awesome. I love to be in the ocean, and diving was super fun. I haven't dove in a while actually since freshman year of college, so I would have to do my research course. Um,
Yeah, I think from my limited understanding, so I've although I would love to learn how to scuba dive and have done it once a long time ago, I'm certainly well and truly rusty and haven't got any certificates recently. I believe how it happens in the UK, for anyone who's potentially listening and thinking, yeah, I'd love to do that too, is so they start with diving in a pool, then it's diving in an aquarium, normally, which is tends to be licensed. Then it's open. Normally, because the UK is quite cold, normally then it's outside of very limited parts of the UK which do offer it. It tends to be most people then do the final certification somewhere in Europe, more like the Mediterranean, where it's a lot warmer, and they have those two certificates, and they do that last top up elsewhere. I know some schools and courses do offer it as a technical skill, but it's few and far between because, but yeah, most people, most students I've worked with before tend to do it via, similar to what you were saying. They do it with other external bodies, study abroad groups that normally basically try to advertise and cater for it that way. But yeah, so very similar. Although this the certification for scientific research, that's one that I'm not 100% sure what the equivalent is in the UK, and I would assume there must be some kind of tie-in because of research tending to be overseas, and I'd imagine a mix of US, European, UK, Australian, and so on, all doing similar research. So they must have some level of parallel qualifications somewhere along the lines. I would have thought.
yeah, yeah. So
Outside of the subject and what really motivated you to pursue it, is there any individuals that, outside of the TikTok sphere or the social media sphere, Was there anyone more close to home that really inspired you to pursue a career in marine science or in the sciences in general?
I think I would definitely say the people that I reached out on Instagram and TikTok were the most important, which is crazy that we live in that era where we can use social media to find people to push us to make these really pivotal decisions. That was, I think, the biggest motivator for sure. Because if I didn't have social media as an outlet to see what life was like for these people, I think I would have had no idea and thought that it was totally unattainable. Um, but my parents have always been really great and supportive of everything that I've wanted to do. And even just like every time we would go to the beach, my mom was my dive buddy, so we'd go scuba diving um, together, and that was awesome. I think that was kind of my first introduction to the ocean, and without that, I don't know that I would have had that connection to the ocean that then pushed me to look more into this career path. I don't know anyone from my hometown that's doing anything like this or like any school around me, which was terrifying. Like I was so scared. Um I think I really wanted to stay close to home just because that's all that I knew. And I'm really, really grateful that I wanted to do this because it put me at University of South Carolina. Obviously, I love marine science, but I really just love this place too. I think it's given me a lot of new opportunities and showed me how good life can get and what I want to get out of life. So for me, marine science, I guess, is more than just the actual subject, just because it did get me into this new and exciting place. But people wise, yeah, and I know Dr. Sylvia Earle obviously is a big name, and I would always see stuff about her on Instagram, and I thought it was just so cool, and I wanted to do research, and really everyone too from the big the ocean related Instagram pages like NOAA, Nautilus, all the scientists that I saw on there doing research. It was cool. I just like to see people doing what I like to do or what I wanted to do, I guess. Um, and so every post that I saw in that sense was motivation.
Or the human side of it. And if you are you a first generation student then, or a legacy student? Did your parents go to university before?
Yeah, I'm a legacy student. My dad's a teacher and my mom was a nurse, so
Okay, and it's just so what obviously nursing is in the medical sciences, so related to biology. But what about your dad? What does he teach?
he teaches business and finance. So kind of opposite, yeah.
But still, a lot of like a STEM B type pursuit, a lot of the technical skills would still be there. So, in terms of you, did you find that as a result of that, university was quite accessible? Knowing you, even if you're not necessarily be having people who were in the same course, but knowing a bit more about what the university experience, what to expect from college. Sorry, I lean to calling it university because that's what they typically hear in the UK.
No, yeah, we call them university too. We go back and forth. College, university, whatever works.
I just want to pick up on I can't quite remember the name of the scientist you were referring to. Dr. Sylvia, I can't remember her surname. So could you talk? Yeah, could you talk to me a bit more about what, particularly from a research point of view, and what their research was that really inspired you to pursue the marine sciences, or more, as well as having that clear interest, what specifically about like their research area and what they were sharing was really helpful.
I honestly don't know what she's researched or what she's done. I just know that she is a very what's the word I'm looking for? She's just like she is the woman that I think most marine scientists think of when they think of like a big name in marine science. And I think having just seeing her like and I would make that connection like, oh, this woman is important. She did, and she's I think 90 years old now. I just pulled up a picture of her. Um yeah, she's 90 years old now, so she's done so much, and I imagine she did so much at a time when it was really hard to do what she was doing, um, as a woman too. So I think she's just always been a figure that I looked up to in that sense.
And on an more of a another point, I suppose. Is there any particular areas within marine science? So I know some people might be thinking about marine science, marine biology as interchangeable, whereas I know a lot of the times marine biology, from my understanding of the two disciplines, marine science is the broader of the two. Marine biology tends to be far more focused. I suppose within that broader topic, what area what area of your classes of your course of the science are you finding more interesting? What are you drawn to? If you had to narrow it down slightly, even if you enjoy all your classes.
Yeah, that's so hard because I really have loved everything. I think I've always kind of leaned towards the biology side. I've taken classes in physical oceanography and chemical oceanography, and obviously they're all very important and they all kind of work together. But I also recently started, so I added a mass communications minor, and I think those classes are really interesting just because I've always taken the science classes. That's kind of pretty much summed up my college experience. So learning how to better communicate that is what I think recently has really been exciting to me. It's cool to learn about something that I've never really got to learn about before, and I think communication is really important. And I know with TikTok now and all the other platforms too, we have new opportunities to communicate that stuff. It's just learning how the best way to do that is, and the fact that that's kind of new and it's it's all interpretive and there's really no right way to do it. I I really enjoy doing that and figuring out um how I can talk to people, how I can communicate research, what the most effective way to engage people is. It's all been super fun and being able to tie that into my classes. I took a class actually this semester on social media influencing, which was really interesting. And I actually learned a lot from that class. It was right around when I started my TikTok account, and that was actually super helpful in terms of finding that niche marine science audience, and knowing like what hashtags to use, what different things to incorporate into my account to reach the people that I wanted to reach. Um, so that was super helpful. And I guess in terms of marine science, it's so hard because I think um, working in a lab too. So right now, I've been working in a zooplankton research lab since the fall semester of my freshman year, and I love zooplankton, but I also just really love the people in the lab, and I love the community, and I don't know if that's something that I would want to research forever, but again, I think I'm a very people oriented person, so if it's the right people doing anything, I think I enjoy it.
Just thinking of that, then, more being someone who's had a biological sciences background and has moved more into the humanities and social sciences. With that as a topic, do you ever think, even with a marine science slant on it, that you might incorporate the likes of qualitative research, where you incorporate more the people's opinion, the stakeholders, and that type of thing? Is that something, if you can marry the two up, the love for communicating with various different people and the research impact that it's typically more seen in the more formal sciences, is that something that you would like to think about?
Yes, certainly. I've been trying to figure out how to do that for a while now. I think if I do, I would love to do a master's in that realm or even a PhD. I think I would definitely veer away from hard science maybe, but I think that's super cool. That's what I'm interested in, seeing how, I guess, people in the ocean interact in really every sense. So, kind of like what you're doing, more social science research, but with a marine slant on it is something that I'd be interested in, or what I hope to make a career out of.
Yeah, and I suppose thinking of some of those areas, and particularly around trying to unpack, I suppose, more on the communication point that you brought up. In what do you think there's something that the conservation sciences specifically, whether that be marine, whether that be more terrestrial based, do you think there's something that allows us to engage with the content more because it's areas or environments that we don't typically see, like most if I talk about education research or someone talks about various different work they do in the lab, most of it is talking head or demonstrating zoomed in samples. Whereas from someone like yourself who might be out and about in those various different environments, the environment itself engages us as well as what you're saying and what you're talking around it.
Yeah, I think that's that's tricky. I think I understand what you're saying. So, are you asking, like, how different settings engage people differently?
Yeah, do you think being in a more, let's say, attractive setting with the different environments that you go to has a benefit to your message, your reach, rather than uh, if you were just doing talking head videos?
I think I do think the environment plays a role because I think, um, in the first couple seconds of a video is when people decide if they're gonna watch it or not, especially with TikTok because 'cause you're just scrolling. So I think if I'm doing a video just talking, I hope originally that was my plan, and I hope to make more of these kinda just talking about my own experiences and what I've done because I really wanna, um, use my experiences to help other people who are in the same boat as me. So I've been kind of trying to craft my audience around that and just reach people who could use this information maybe to make, like I said before, more informed decisions about their own lives, and just be happy and have the courage to do what they wanna do. So, I think for that, talking videos are necessary and definitely helpful, but also if you're a business major or an adult that doesn't have any interest in marine science, they're probably not gonna watch that, but I think, posting a video of the ocean or, like, a shrimp in a jar, in the ocean or a nudibranch, in the ocean. I think that's something that's interesting to everyone. Everyone likes to see a sunset over the ocean. It's just it's beautiful and it's cool to see, and I think it does help you reach more people. Um, but it's also there's not really, I guess, any value in um that I hate to say that there's no value in a video of a sunset in the ocean because I love just watching sunset ocean videos, but um if if you're spending a minute recording the sunset, there's a beautiful sunset video, or you could spend a minute recording a video of yourself talking and how talking about your experiences and helping people decide what they want to do. So I think you just need a mix of both. I think videos of the ocean, obviously, something in a more attractive setting, help you reach more people. You might get more likes on that video, but I do think for social media and what it's used for, videos of people talking and just doing what you're doing are super important and really helpful to a lot of people. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I've never really thought about it like that. And I mean, I know obviously since marine science is so romanticized, like you could take a video of anything and it's going to be pretty and beautiful, but yeah, no, and I try to think about that too, like how I can make even my talking videos um just as short and as engaging as possible because time is very valuable. I know everyone's busy, everyone's on a time crunch, so sometimes I'll speed my talking up or put pictures, like overlay pictures or videos onto the talking just to or also the subtitles too. I think like the closed captions are helpful too. Cause I try and think like what would I want to watch in a video? And at what point would I stop watching? So I think there's a lot of things to consider, and the more that I do it, I think the easier it gets. But yeah, it takes a long time actually to like go through and edit a video. I can't imagine how much time you spend doing this. I didn't realize how much goes into it. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think though what you're saying about, I suppose, bringing this more scientific value to the art of the image that you've recorded or the video that you've got is very impactful and very powerful. I can remember reading something on the fact that photos and videos that have more of a blue tint, which obviously the ocean, barring very, very limited places where it's very dirty water, is more generally the ocean tends to be blue for the most part and tends to, like you say, engage and catch the individual's attention. I do think that there's merit in synergizing those two where possible at least, and certainly I can't. I'm not going to say I'm an advocate against the talking head videos because that is myself and many other content educators. That's our main way of engaging. But like you say, it's interesting to see that I've a number of different accounts I follow where they do more of a I would say they're floating heads where they've got this really lovely background going on behind them of what they've recorded, and because it relates them more to the field that they're talking about, it's something that they can engage with. So a bit of a marrying up of the two, which I suppose is an advantage that your area of academic research has. That if I had my equivalent environment would be a library or a classroom, which is not really as inviting.
You're right. That's so interesting, and I've never thought about it like that. But yeah, huh? That's cool.
I will say, just on that the point though of about curating the videos and deciding what goes into them. Sometimes one of the things I found with social media very early on is that sometimes it's completely random. I know when I've been teaching, if someone was if I was teaching a class and I was eating in that class, no one would engage with it. They'd get very disengaged from. Whereas I did a social experiment. I thought, okay, I'll do the same audio, same video, exactly the same. I will do three different things. I will talk through it so the speech is actually matching what I'm saying, and then I'll bounce a tennis ball in another, and I'll eat a donut in the third. And the one with the donut had more engagement than the other two, and completely same audio, same background, same everything, other than the donut, the tennis ball, and the speaking was different. And I know for a fact if you put that person into a classroom and did that same delivery, you would be less engaged with the donut than you would with the other two, because the tennis ball might be okay. What is he doing? What are they doing with the tennis ball? But you would most people in the convention, social convention, would find that you were talking to someone and they were continuing to eat what they were doing. Most people get very annoyed by that very quickly. But for whatever reason, it becomes engaging on social media. I have absolutely no idea why. Yeah. So from a social science perspective, that if you that's one area of when you can when you get a bit bored and you're looking for a video idea, that's something that I thought, okay, let's have a bit of experiment with social media and see how that works. Yeah. So thinking more, relating it back more to some of your you're very early on in your academic journey, but if thinking of what research areas you could potentially do, if you were to envision that yourself at that PhD or master stage, what area of research do you think you would like to be doing, or would you, what impact or what work would you like to see future Lilly doing?
Okay. Yeah, so I've always been interested in harmful algal blooms. That's one of the issues that I saw when I would go to the beach. They also kind of pushed me to pursue the career in marine science. I always wanted to be able to use my education to do research that could help enforce tangible change and conservation measures. So that's something I've always been interested in. I think really I think I just have to find a good place. It's hard because I wanna I think I could be happy doing any research as long as I'm at a university that I like, surrounded by a good community of people. In terms of what I want to do, obviously harmful algal blooms, but I'm really, really trying to figure out something where I could do something more like you're doing what you said, combining social science with marine science. And I really don't know what that would look like, and it's hard because with master's funding, obviously, in the United States. So I mean, right now, everything's kind of up in the air, but it's easier to, or I know with marine science, you can get funding or TA-ships. So to get paid to go to grad school doing hard science research like that. So obviously, that's something that I have to take into
I especially think that whilst funding can be a barrier in some cases, and I know the loan systems for different countries are very different. I can remember when I took a trip when I for my 30th, actually, we went and had a trip around Iceland, and their universities have marine scientists who work on their whale watching expeditions. So one of their ways they, I suppose, get a bit of additional funding is they work as a tour. They not a tour guide per se, but they're going out and they're doing some of their conservation work whilst also saying, and there is a fin whale, or there is a for argument's sake, I'd imagine killer whales or humpback whales that they could find, and they're looking for those whales anyway. but they're also doing an element of the marrying up of the tourism and the conservation work. And I know a lot, not the UK specifically, but a lot of European universities, thinking Germany, Iceland, so on, tend to be where a lot of students, particularly internationally, go because they are far more accessible because they're a lot cheaper. And obviously, whilst we can get loans in our own country to support that education, it's something that can then have that advantage. I will say Iceland, it's a lovely picturesque place as well. But yeah, from the social science point as well, I would just add that a lot of social science funding tends to, what I've seen, you can certainly pick up the research as you're going. So even at the undergraduate, master's, or PhD stage, if there's a project that you're interested in to marrying it up, then quite in most research councils or research grants are available to support that if you've got a idea, and it's easier to get smaller pots of money for that.
That's super insightful. Thank you. Yeah, I know around here I don't know that we really do anything like that, but I don't see a reason why we couldn't, because I know obviously like dolphin tours are in whale. I mean, we don't have whales. Well, we do have whales, but whale watching isn't a big thing on our coast. Dolphin tours, I would say, are a bigger thing. But I do think there's definitely an opportunity to combine the two, and then maybe get funding through that. But that's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
But what really pushed you to start on social media?
It's something that I've always wanted to do. I think since it was such a big pivotal part of me making the decision to study marine science, and I don't think I would be anywhere nearly as happy and content as I am right now if I had chose a different path. So, um, I've always hoped that I would be able to be a resource for people like me who are in my boat. And I think now I'm in a position where I can do that. I've had some experiences. I know a lot of people now that are doing really cool research, and people who can talk about their their own lives. I try when I talk with different marine scientists, I ask them about their career paths too. So I think there's also a lot of ways you can approach careers in marine science. A lot of the people that I've talked to, well, a couple of them don't have degrees in marine science. They could have it in maybe like physics or computer science. There's a bunch of different ways that you can end up doing marine science work, even if you're not a marine scientist. And I think um, since I'm in a position where I can talk to these people and then make videos about them and then put that onto the internet, and hopefully for other people who are interested in pursuing a career in this realm to see that there are people doing what they want to do and how they did it. I hope that that's helpful, and I hope that, so I have one more year left. I'm still trying to figure out how I can best utilize all these resources and do things that will help other people interested in marine science make these decisions. Um, but yeah, there was that, and then I applied for a grant actually through my university to do a project on science communication. It's actually titled, so the TikTok page is a result of that. It's titled Science Communication, Is TikTok the Answer? So I'm kind of trying to see an experiment and just basically science communicate and talk with different marine scientists, put that out there, and then see how I can engage different people. And I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to analyze this data and determine, I guess, the success of the project. But really, I think that there's been a pretty good response. I feel like I've interacted with some, and even like this, doing this with you.
Particularly, one of the things that the whole approach of this podcast and generally is to try to better connect the likes of people who are just interested in academia at different stages. So the hope would be, whether it be someone at PhD, post PhD, who's interested in various different research areas that other people are pursuing, such as having a background in more land based sciences, so animal behavior, agriculture. I don't necessarily have as much of a synergy with marine sciences, but finding various different people that do, or interacting with people who have a specialism in shark biology or various different other sciences or the humanities. I've connected with people who are philosophers by their research background, and theologists, which it's really interesting to see. I think particularly with people who are passionate about, most people are passionate about very specific things, but one of the things that I find really interesting from researchers and people who are in the academic realm is I can find what they're interested in, learn a little bit about it, and inform myself in that respect. And I mean, not to say that there aren't other areas, but it's the benefit of just developing more knowledge without necessarily having that immediate commercial link to it, such as where their backgrounds really come from. So it's interesting to see, like you're talking about the impact and the connection between other influencers, other content creators, educators who are branching into social media, either starting that page off, or whether they are 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers deep, and been doing it for a fair while now. But it's really interesting, and hopefully the results of your project is quite an interesting piece for different people to read, because I do think so. There's a lot of people I've come across who tend to go and say that they, very similar to you, reach out, DM different people, ask questions about the PhD, the master's research, the undergraduate courses, whereas they won't necessarily reach out to the university, the advisors, the staff that are there, because most people don't want to cold email, and they try to avoid that. Or yeah, so it's interesting to hear that.
And I think also I'm kind of trying to, I mean, obviously I post the interviews with marine science, but I try and also just post videos of like me going about my daily life and doing college things, because that's something that I looked for too. Whenever I was talking to these people, I wanted um to make sure that these people were enjoying their lives and doing fun things and still getting like that college experience. So I try to encapsulate that in my videos as well. And um I know like some people have commented and asked how you get into marine science, how you can get involved with marine science, not even necessarily have a career, and that makes me happy, because I hope in that sense I'm providing some sort of, I'm not an expert in anything by any means, but I hope um just by me like posting about my life, I'm able to help people and some.
Yeah, and I think like you say, I think that's both the goal that many people have, and it's an aspirational target to aim towards as well. And I suppose on the flip of this, we're thinking about the positive sides of social media. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges for content educators at various different stages?
I think posting a lot, posting consistently. I know for a long time, well, I started the account in January. It's April now. That went fast. I was posting 2 times a day. So, and that I like with the editing and everything, I would try when I would interview people, I would make a few videos, edit them, post them throughout the week. But even then, sometimes I was struggling to like find things to post about 2 times a day, or at least plan everything in advance so that I was consistently posting twice a day, because that's one of the things that I learned in my social media class. You need to post consistently to grow that audience, and I think in the early stages of an account too, um it's really important. And I think everything's connected too. You know, if you post consistently, you're gonna reach more people and then gain an audience. And then eventually, I want to go into stuff too, talking about ocean conservation and stuff like that. And just like the amount of people that you're able to reach with that obviously dictates some of that and the impact that you can have. Um, so I'm trying now. I'm getting back into it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start posting twice a day now, again consistently for the rest of the summer. And I'm going back to work at the place I worked at last summer, which is the National Estuarine Research Reserve, and I'm excited because I think there's a lot to communicate there. And like you said, it's all very pretty things that I think are eye catching and might do well for TikTok.
But I mean, there can be controversy in publishing, because I know a lot of people I've spoken to on social media platforms, they say you can't get access to those journal articles if you aren't at a university. You can't get access to those resources, and therefore you're gatekeeping knowledge. Whilst it's great to produce it, it's has its cons as well. And The other thing that I thought was a interesting point is that potentially journals can be approached by AI companies to effectively allow them access to the research, and they get around the gate. But then, rather than encouraging students or individuals to do that research themselves to use that critical thinking, it encourages the AI to generate an output that they can then engage with. And from a skill point of view and from a human development point of view, is that really what we want the research to contribute to being a one line output in a question to ChatGPT or whatever.
For sure. Yeah, I think that would be something that's interesting to research moving forward because it's something that like we've never encountered for. Obviously, social media is a very recent um recent thing. I don't know how you would go about doing like researching that. I guess that's just something that we have to figure out, but I like you said, I do think it's really important because there's a lot that goes into publishing a scientific paper in a scientific journal, but when you think about outside of academia, how many people that's informing or reaching, as compared to like a TikTok video, I think there's an argument. They're both very, very important because that's obviously with these research articles, that's how other research is built upon it. So I think it's about finding the perfect balance of both and being able to communicate it to both of those different audiences. But
Thinking more about so I have a bit of a flip of a question here. So one is, what do you hope when you graduate, when you go into whatever field or whatever application of your academic studies so far, what do you hope your legacy will be, either on social media or on research generally?
I think I always, even after I graduate, I want to continue. I hope that I'm in an environment where I can continue um, to be in contact with other marine scientists, and use their experiences and talk about their experiences to help people. But I really just hope that through all of this and through research, I can sort of be a resource to people who are interested in pursuing a career in marine science because it has really been the most pivotal decision that I've ever made, and I'm really happy where I am now. But I also recognize that if it wasn't for the people who were posting on TikTok and talking to me on Instagram, I would have had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I don't know that I would have ended up studying marine science. So I'm hopeful that by posting these videos and building a following, I can reach people who um are looking for stuff like this, and maybe they didn't know they were interested in this, or maybe they didn't know this was a possibility. But I just hope that I can help people and um
That's certainly a very commendable reason to want to leave that legacy. And now, the flip of that is, based on the professors who've taught you or the teachers who gave you that initial push into more the biological sciences, what does your academic heritage look like to you? How, when you reflect on what you've been taught and how you've been taught, how does that make you think about your wider discipline?
oh that I think I have like a pretty general my classes when I have the option to take elective classes in marine science, I usually opt for more policy or communications related classes. So I think I have a pretty wide scope on everything, and I think it's really cool. I'm in a class right now learning about the deep sea, and that's super interesting. I think now that I've started this account and started posting consistently, when I'm in the class, I'm constantly thinking of things that I could share with people based off of what I'm learning in class, and that's something new that I haven't really experienced before starting this account. So that's been interesting, and I've learned that I do like learning about niche subjects too. I've never taken a class just specifically on an ecosystem like the deep sea, but it's super cool. And I realized that I even though I was in a point in my academic career where I thought, okay, I communication is my thing. This is what I like learning about. It's been a nice refresher and a reminder that I also enjoy learning about deep sea organisms and that side of science because I was getting a little scared that I was losing my I guess you could say my hard research sciencey spark, but um, it's been really cool to learn about a niche science topic and refreshing too.
Well, it sounds it, and like you say, I know that interest in the very niche element is often where people pursue the masters, pursue the PhDs from, and that's because they progressively start going down that rabbit hole of wanting to find out more about that topic. And I suppose thinking about, especially as it's not too long ago, uh, what who rather than who, what advice would you give to someone who's in school now, who's at whatever stage, thinking about going into academia or research or in the marine sciences? What advice would you give them about starting, and what advice do you wish you had before?
Yeah, just say yes to everything. Take every opportunity you can. I know my university, I'm on an email listserv in the School of the Earth, Ocean, and Environment. So they'll send out information about poster sessions and different events. I tried to go to every poster session that I could and just talk to the grad students about their research. There's visiting lecturers and guest, well, I guess technically they're called guest lecturers of researchers visiting from other universities who will come and talk about their research, and that's super valuable too because you can go to that, you can watch it, you can learn about what they're doing, and then you can talk to them after, and learn about different possibilities. I think joining clubs is super important. Doing Trying to get involved with research, I know it's kind of hard. I got involved early on and I'm really happy that I did. I think it's been really good to explore my interests and kind of teach me a little bit about what I like and what I don't like while getting paid. But really just talking to everyone, I found that everyone in the marine science community is very supportive, or at least with all the interactions I've had, and I'm very grateful for that. So just talking to my professors and getting to know them, um, and the different opportunities and what they've done throughout their lives has been super helpful for me to make decisions about my life, which I think I keep coming back to that, making informed decisions about your life that will make you happier in the end. That's kind of what I've tried to center my education and my life around. So
Okay, and just thinking about going off the social media and off the academic track for the moment, one of the things that I thought would be quite an interesting thing to add outside of your academic studies and your research interests. What is that one thing that most people would be surprised to know about you, generally, in terms of the more human side of who you are as an individual?
oh oh I that's I feel like everything people know about me, it just I don't know, I guess I'm just me and I try and put that out on social media. This is tricky. I'm never good with like the fun fact questions. I think I know I've talked about really like liking people, but I try and kind of revolve my life and my research and my studies around, uh, I guess the more social aspect of things and my friends. I think there's something to be said for having a balance in life, and I really value, spending time with my friends, especially being in college. I know it's not always gonna be like this, but, um, I'm a big advocate for finding a balance between school and research and having fun because I guess at the end of the day, life is life and you only get to live once. So, um, I try and really, I guess, manage my time so that I can do the research and do the science and do the things, but also spending a lot of time with my friends and just having fun.
One of the questions I always ask my guests to share is, what question would you ask the next content educator about their research or about their content's impact?
Ooh, I guess what what is the video that you've found has performed the best? And when you're creating content, what motivates you? Um, what do you hope people get out of your content? And how did you start doing what you do? There's so many questions. Um, I guess about the person in general, like how they got where they are. That's always something I'm super interested in learning about people. What made them interested in the research that they're doing, and are they happy with what they're doing now, and where do they see themselves going in the future?
So, the question that I have for you from my last guest, Marianne, was, what's the so how do you hope to have an impact through your social media or through your research?
Again, just I hope that by sharing my experiences, the experiences of other marine scientists, that I'll be able to put something out there that someone will be able to watch and say, okay, this is what I want to do. She's doing it. This scientist has done it, so I can do it too. And then go do it and end up being happy. And I hope that I'm putting stuff out there that will inspire people to maybe make the same, not necessarily the same decisions that I've made, but decisions that they're scared to make, but that they think will make them happy in the end. And it does end up making them happy in the end and improving their quality of life, because I think happy people, when people are happy, I think the world is a better place. And that might sound, I think that's cheesy, but also it's true. And I hope that by sharing my experiences, I can help people find a niche in their own life where they feel like they belong and they're doing meaningful work and they're content with where they're at.
Interview and this episode of Sitting Down with Scholars. So thank you very much, Lily, for joining me and talking through your academic journey. Just before we wrap up, could you share or highlight what platforms or ways that different people who might want to find out more about your academic journey can get in touch with you?
Account is Lilly Kosoglow, LILLYKOSOGLOW. My Instagram is the same, and then I started an Instagram page my freshman year called Tides Collective. So that's TIDES COLLECTIVE, where I reached out to a bunch of different marine scientists from around the world, and I tried to make Canva graphics that basically uh share, or I guess I compose Canva graphics to share information about their experiences in marine science with research, and their university experiences as well. So, now that I've started on TikTok, I've kind of fell off with that, but all the posts are still up. So, if you're interested, you can go look, and I think it's a pretty cool resource. You can see the career paths of a lot of different marine scientists and things that they've done, and I also have some highlights on there too of different opportunities with jobs and internships. Again, I haven't updated it in a while, but a lot of the things I posted about are still opportunities that are available now. So it could be cool to just go and see some different opportunities in the marine science field.
Well, thank you very much, Lily, for sharing that, and hopefully people will find you on those various platforms, and I will attach them as tags for everyone so they can find them on the various platforms. This episode will go up on Substack and on YouTube as well, so you'll be able to tune in to the full episode on there or clips on those other platforms. So thanks again for joining me, Lily, and thank you everyone for tuning in to Sitting Down with Scholars, and please tune into the next episode where you can hear about my next guest's academic journey.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for having me. That was so much fun. And I loved learning about you too. And I think it was really motivational for me too to hear that you're doing social science research. It made me think a lot about how I can potentially incorporate that into my research in the future. So, thank you.